All right, so it is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, January 13th, and I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Looks like everybody is here. And I can certify that we are in compliance with open meetings law. Doesn't look like we have any public comment. Communications and presentations, Director Trevatowski.
All right, starting off with the update on True by Hilton. Attorney Rick Manthe, never heard back from their attorney. Another email was sent by Chris regarding some other things, but threw that in there as well. It's on my list. I just need to call them, and then we'll get on the collection process more. For the next, is there any questions on that or comments? Okay. The next item, the purchasing card agreement form. So that's in the packet. We did have an agreement form before. The utilities, however, did not. So this came about. It was something I wanted to update because when I signed the original form, I'm like making notes of things we need to add. But with the utilities needing to create or have a form, Shannon and I work together to establish a new form so that they're pretty uniform together with just the differences of, who our vendor is, who theirs are. We've had a lot of issues with credit cards and just not getting the information that we need, detailed receipts, people not entering account numbers or descriptions. That has gotten better. We've sent out many communications on that. But looking at how much credit card limit is out there, it's 500,000 with 60 people having credit cards. So I'm going through evaluating the limits. I can tell you there's going to be a lot that are going to be lowered. And then also evaluate, does everybody that currently has a card, do they really need to have a card? I get it's convenient, but the liability is still out there. But so we've updated this form. Attorney Rick Manthe did review it and gave his blessing on it. So any
That seems like a lot of credit cards for a city this size.
correct. So
Credit cards? Seriously?
yes,
Why does everybody need a credit card?
exactly. So it is on my list. I'm already
It's just efficiency, and there is a cost if you have to cut a PO, so there's a balance there.
Yep, but it's how much are they using it?
Right.
And the limit out there that's insane. So definitely going to be at least limiting the amount of their credit limit and then evaluating. I've been working on a sheet to evaluate how much each person is using their card and, if everybody that has one truly needs one.
And then they get reviewed. I review the department head ones, so that we make sure that all the receipts are attached and we can go through and see what the purchases are. And then the department heads, they must review their employees.
Yes, they sign off on it. We've been going through them more diligently and then addressing any issues where there might not be a detailed receipt, just the sum.
Yeah.
Well, what did you purchase with
Yeah,
this?
the big one is the tax exempt. That one is, we get tripped up on that, because we shouldn't be paying any sales tax on things, so try to monitor that as well.
Do we use any third-party software for expense reporting and receipts? Or is that a manual process?
It's a manual process. Well, so U.S. Bank is who the vendor is for our credit cards. So we're able to dump the information out, and there's an import process into our financial software. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I only ask because in my day job, even though we're a financial institution, we use a third-party software for our corporate cards. It's called Certify. And it won't if you submit any expense without a receipt, it will flag it and automate the review process.
Yeah, so it's a manual process. So like the mayor had said, department heads go to the mayor. People within departments, they go to their respective department heads who are supposed to be reviewing, signing off on it. It goes to Debbie in the finance department who does the initial review, and I've gone one step further now, having Nicole Marie go through and making contact with any issues that we have.
I'm just trying to think of how time consuming this is, because I just know with my own credit cards, going through line by line and saying, what was this for? You know, so I'm just thinking, like, just things that, I mean, is there a receipt literally for every single
There should be.
line
yes.
item on the credit card statement? So that's where you're headed, which does sound very time consuming, but also that'd be the only way, because I've been hacked like 3 times in the last year for purchases that I didn't make, you know, so I just feel like that's, even if nobody's doing anything dishonest from our employee standpoint, there's just so much risk of getting hacked, so it's a tough situation.
Yep, so we'll just evaluate.
60 cards out there.
Yeah, so we're addressing it, just want to make you aware of it, and then the new form that we have.
Thank you.
Too. What are there spending authority limits on those, like or like, you know, regular FTE department heads, they have a certain dollar value that they can spend up to?
So each cardholder has a limit, and that's where some of them are excessive, and those will be going down. We can do a one-time like increase, so if something would need to happen, we're like, okay, I have a bigger purchase this month. Okay, we'll increase it, and then it needs to be brought back down, so that we're not having that amount of limit out there to be accessed if it were hacked or.
Do those coincide with like what their regular purchase limit would be?
Not where some of them are at necessarily. And I don't know why at one point, if it needed an increase for some reason, and it just never
Sure.
decreased. So I had to talk with staff about that, making sure once we set these limits, if there is an increase for some reason, that trying to lower some to like just $1,000 or some at $5,000.
You know, I would
Then-
think if they can't have a PO cut for a certain amount, why should they be able to go with a credit card above that? So seems like it should be, you should match them up, and then if they need a one-time, then do the one-time.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
Yep.
Ozzy?
So they're using these credit cards to purchase fuel and gasoline as well?
No, so if you need to order something off of Amazon, or if, I mean, I don't have all the purchases, but I know some use, like police department, I think will use it for new clothing for a new employee, or things like that. They go to a hardware store because they need a part, or.
Yeah, a lot of it is like Stoughton lumber, the fire department, if they're repairing something, they need, you know, some parts or whatever.
I understand
Things
that.
like the Opera House, if they're doing advertising, like on Facebook, they'll, you know, do something on there. Those are the ones I typically see. The other ones are, you know, just supplies, mostly the senior center. You know, I'm sure they have some for various things that they're doing down there, and the other departments as well.
What
But
about fuel cards as well?
I think those are separate, aren't they?
I don't know how the fuel works here.
Oh.
I've never had to.
That's something we can talk about with
Okay.
the leadership team. I think those are separate. Because I think they do it by vehicle, so.
Are they tracking the mileage too? I've been down this road, that's what.
Yeah, I have too. You know, typically when you have a card, it prompts you to enter the mileage at the pump. But I don't know if that's how we're set up or not. We can look into that. And I know that, you know, on our fleet, I know that, you know, Bryce and they'll monitor that in the shop when they're doing their work. They're monitoring mileage basically for everything. So they probably have the information. We just need to ask them. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty complicated. I mean, that, and, you know, you mentioned the uniforms too, so we'll be talking about that some more at some point as well.
Not that they wanted to open that big can of worms, but there it is.
Any other questions on this one? I bet you didn't expect a lot of questions on this.
Did not, but I'm glad that there are comments being made and questions, and it's good.
All right, if we have no other questions, then the next item is approval of the minutes from the December 9th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Brett. Second by Adrian. Any edits, additions, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And it doesn't sound, any opposed? No opposed. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is treasury reports.
There's nothing really new for November to report unless there's specific questions, but it's the typical one, TID and the room tax. This isn't within the November, but just wanted to give a heads up so I don't forget about it when we talk for December, which will come later because we're still working on year end. But we did receive the pilot payment for the water and electric, and it was about $130,000 more than budgeted. So that's a positive.
Any questions on the reports? Lisa?
I actually don't remember, I'm trying to find it now, I don't remember which report it was on, maybe on various, but there was a Fund 800 custodial fund. Can you remind me what that is? It looks like it was zeroed out. And I'm sorry, I don't know which report, so we can maybe save it for a future.
No, that's fine.
Offline thing,
So there's various for, within the 800, advanced tax collection. The way Dave did the accounting for municipal court forfeitures. And there's one other one. And I'm thinking, but that's what that has to do with.
Is it still, is it one that we still use? Because it looked
Yes.
like it's.
Yep.
Okay.
So the activity, there'll be activity recorded year end.
Okay, because it looked like it was at 0, but maybe I misread it, so I apologize. I'm gonna look back, and if I can find it, I'll just send you an email. My notes to myself were not very good, so I don't want to waste your time on it.
Any other questions? Okay. Then we will move on to the first resolution of the evening. We have a resolution to authorize borrowing of approximately $1,300,000 from the Wisconsin State Trust Fund for the purchase of property. And I don't know if Mayor or if Lisa, you want to talk about the property. I think we
can
know
go
where it
ahead.
is. But
So we're aware of the purchasing. This is for the property on Williams Drive. Doing a state trust fund loan for this. The reason being is, one, it's quick money to get to. 2, you can prepay at any time. So depending on what happens with the property, if the utilities ends up purchasing some of that, we can prepay all of that. Once things are settled, we can, for if it's financially advantageous, we can incorporate it into another debt issue with our annual borrowing to save on the interest rates. But with so much up in the air of what we're doing here, something that we can prepay easily without penalty or quick.
And at this point, we're just basically waiting for the soil sample testing to come back. So that's where we are in the process. And once we get that, then more than likely we would prepare for closing.
And so the land purchase is 1.25. This is 1.3. We would only ask for what we need, but it was increased to account for the soil testing and any attorney fees, closing costs, anything like that that might come up. But if we don't need the full 1.3, we went to get the full 1.3.
Any questions? I have one, which is more or less a point of curiosity, since I think this is the first one of these that I've been involved in. Just looking at the terms, you're right, always want to look for no prepayment penalty, et cetera. In terms of like a rate, what are the guidelines for a city to borrow? I mean, is this like the best?
We could have
Terms we
gone
could
out
get.
and solicited various banks to see if they'd be willing to do something for us for time and easy access to the money. This is something that many municipalities use. It's higher interest rate, that's why I'm saying, like, once we know, we could have done like a note anticipation note or something else, but this is the route going with, depending on, the utility portion and, can roll it over into a new debt issue.
Any other questions? I had to ask that.
Nope, that's good.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to recommend to council.
I'll recommend to council.
Motion by Brett,
Second.
second by Lisa. Any final questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, we will recommend to council. Next one is another resolution. It is to amend the 2026 capital budget for street sweeper number 12 for public works.
So this item is in the 2026 capital budget. When they went to go look at the purchase, they were out of the 2026 chassis, so they would have to go for a 2027 chassis, which wouldn't be available until fall of 2026. They were informed of this demo unit, which is a little more costly, but it also has an additional suction feature that they can use for the basins. But when they provided the capital listing and the revenue for the sale of the old one, it was on the low end. So they've done their research and found that they could probably get $30,000 or more for that. So this budget amendment is just increasing the expenses for what it will actually cost and then increasing the revenue. So there'll be additional revenue than what was already in the budget for, to offset some of the costs.
Ozzy?
How many street sweepers do they have?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a couple or three. They have to do, the city so many times in order to receive grant money. And a lot of the funds that we get for the purchase and even the labor is coming out of the stormwater utility fee. So it's not all on property tax. You think it's three?
I think it's 3.
We can ask Aber, he'll know. But
I'm
yeah.
just curious.
And then we also partner with some of the surrounding townships. On the weekends, they use it sometimes for their leaf pickup, so we can help keep the phosphorus out of the river. So we have a contract with them as well.
It'd
Yeah,
take a
that-
long time to drive it all the way out to Dunkirk.
Doesn't move very fast.
Lisa?
Yeah, just again for clarification, so the fiscal impact, maybe I'm just not getting something, but the fiscal impact is actually, because we're over 13,560 on the sweeper, but also over 12,000, so is the fiscal impact actually only 1,560? It's confusing, the resolution was confusing, because it's not actually going to cost us 13,560, is it?
No, it's just the amount of the increase for the expense. side. So the street sweeper was originally budgeted at 385. It's now going to be 3,985.60. So it's an increase in expenditures of 13,560.
And that's
So
how we have to,
So that's the impact, is there's an increase, well, in revenues as well as expenditures. So
okay,
it's kind of a net, but the expense side, the impact is.
that's how you have to, right, even though it's not going to cost us 13,560, right?
Right. I guess it's the change,
Okay.
the increase amount, because we've already set the budget for 385.
Gotcha.
So now the increased amount is the fiscal impact.
Okay.
If you'd like to see that differently, you can certainly.
It seems confusing because it's really not going to cost us 13,560. It's only going to cost us like 1,560, right?
I guess to follow up on what Lisa, that was a kind of a question I had too. I get that we have a known and we have an unknown. The known is the street sweeper costs 13,560 more than what we budgeted. The the way I read it, the proceeds are expected for the old equipment to garner 30,000, but we can't know that yet until the auction actually happens, correct?
What the true amount is.
Right. But so then my question, and maybe this is kind of similar to what Lisa was asking, we have the account number, I'm not going to read it because I'm not Phil, read all those long numbers. So we have the expense, 13,560, that makes sense. Then the next line item is sale of city property. Shouldn't that be 12,000? Because that's the anticipated difference between what we anticipated.
Well, and
what
he
we-
said 30,000 on the low end, so for easy budget amendment, it's increased the revenues for the offsetting expenditures.
Anything else you'll true up by the end of the year anyway,
Right.
right?
Yeah, so if it would happen to come in lower, it's going to be stormwater fund balance, or if there's additional revenues, then, so to know the true side of the revenue part, won't know until it's sold, but I guess we can evaluate how we state that fiscal impact.
Seems like, we try to squeeze the whole thing into like a single transaction, but it isn't really.
Right.
Because we're buying this one thing and we're selling this other thing, even though they're related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I asked if it had to be written that way, because that's the only thing that's known, and I'm fine with it, but it's just,
Yeah, and it seemed like it used to
OCD
be,
probably.
oftentimes, they wouldn't even put the trade-in on there, and all of a sudden, the money would show up, and it's like, okay, where does it go? And so this is at least closer than that.
Mhm.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
move to approve,
All right. we
or
have a
recommend to council.
Motion to recommend to council by Lisa,
Second that.
and a second by Brett. All right, any other final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council. And the last resolution that we have is to amend the 2026 operating budget for mini grant extension.
So we did have one last year where the situation of a 2023 project wasn't carried over, and it ended up happening, and we did a budget amendment. Here we're on top of this now. Ask the question if there's anything outstanding that we need to carry over. So it's just carrying over those funds because they weren't able to get to the project and want to carry that over when they complete it in this year.
So the mini grant program is for landmarks, so we typically budget, it's around $20,000 a year. And they've been trying to condense the application period and the schedule to get these projects done in the same fiscal year as they're awarded. We're not quite there yet, but I think we're getting closer. The only other thing I could do is say, well, if you're gonna have to carry it over, I'm not gonna budget as much. That's really the only stick I have, but don't want to cut them short because it's important that we get these projects done. But that would be kind of the message to Landmarks, but I know they're trying real hard to get them done, and sometimes, you know, they get a quote, they go to do the work, material or vendor's not available, things drag on, next thing you know, somebody goes on vacation, summer's over, project's not done, rolls into next year.
Weather.
Yeah, so, but it's a good program. I mean, it's helped a lot of residential and commercial businesses, especially downtown, you know, maintain the historic character of their buildings, so we'd like to continue it. We'll just keep dialing away at it.
Out of curiosity, where is this project at?
This one,
Well, it's on 144 East Main, but I'm just.
144 East Main.
Professor Google said it was all through the house, that building.
Okay, so that would be, what was that, the Giggles or whatever?
The old Giggles.
Yeah, which they're just about done with. I see they have a tenant in there on the lower level, and they've been working on the upstairs. I think they're gonna do Airbnb up there, so they've been pretty much grabbing any money where they can to get this project done, so it'd be nice for them to get it to the finish line.
Well, and the other thing that happens, having served on Landmarks, is that, you know, any of you that have owned an old home know that, you know, you open a wall or you try to do one project and then there's a big old problem behind it. And so then they can't do project, you know, the first one, because now they have to fix this other thing before they can come back to it. So that has, and I think with these folks, they have run into several
There's a lot of layers
challenges.
to them there, onions.
Oh, man, yeah.
Or you find dentures.
Yeah. Raccoons.
Yeah, we've
Sometimes
seen
a
that
family of
in a
them.
lot of the establishments downtown, and I think we've been really fortunate with this program and other incentives that we put into place. I feel like a lot of the property owners have been peeling back the onion, and in the past, they just kind of went over it. So I feel really good about some of the projects that were done in the last several years, where I know they were done right, and they weren't just kind of, you know, patching them, which is the easy thing to do, but so I'm encouraged that they're still, you know, working on these things. You had an old house, didn't you?
I did.
Do you miss it?
It may still have you be in it, they have a lot of character, but a
They
bit of
do.
work.
I'm 10 years in, and the previous owners did all of that work. So we hopefully are still quite a few years out ourselves from running into any issues.
All right, any other discussion on this item? Any motions?
I'd make the motion to recommend approval to council.
All right, motion by Lisa, second by Adrian. All right, all in favor of recommending to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend to council. And then we have our future agenda items. So next meeting, it looks like cash handling policy, investment policy, TID for housing extension and termination, EMS cash flow. And then we have some other items, TBD. Anything else that we need to add?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple things. I think we're going to be doing the cost allocation study this year, right? And I don't know what the plan is.
Yep, I'm already working with him.
Oh, you are?
We have to wait until the 2025 audit is complete
Okay.
before we get him information, so it can be based off of.
Yeah, and I don't know what role this committee will have. It's a pretty extensive report. You're not going to want to go through it page by page, but you're probably going to want to understand kind of the process and what's in it more than anything. And then we use that to do cost allocation. So like the stormwater fee, we hire a consultant. That way we can justify what we're charging for the, what is it, an EDU or whatever it's called, the unit for the impervious surface. And then any like administrative fees that we charge, let's say we charge administrative fees for HR to be down at utilities. We have to be able to justify that for the ratepayers. So that's the purpose of the report. So this will be the second one that we're doing. So that'll probably take a good chunk of the year, I would think.
Yep, so the plan would be to have it ready for the 2027 budget.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was mentioning earlier is that there is a conversation going on that Chief Ripp and I have been having with Oregon and Fitchburg, potentially some other municipalities, about long-term looking at having a fire EMS district. So we're going to probably bring a proposal here at the next meeting to see if that's something that this group might want to take a look at. Initially, it started out, there's some money in the state budget for some innovation incentive grants. We think it's probably a little late in the game to take advantage of that. We don't know if there's really going to be any cost savings. It's more of a efficiency thing. So the idea, though, would be to basically hire somebody to do a feasibility study and see if it makes sense for the surrounding districts to maybe combine some resources. So we're expecting an RFP. We had a meeting this morning. They're going to follow that up with an RFP. I have a resolution that I can modify for consideration. It'll probably be here, and it'll probably also be at public safety to see if they would endorse that concept. I think there's some thought ideally that it'd be more beneficial if Dane County did it, but maybe if we start the conversation, they'll jump in on it since they're already doing the dispatch. But that'll be something that we'll be talking about here, so.
Lisa, will the credit card stuff come back? Probably not for the January meeting. Is that off in the to be determined?
I'm sorry, the credit
Your
card.
credit, or how you're gonna handle the purchasing cards?
Did you
that we
want me
talked
to
about earlier.
report back at the limits that
Oh, I don't know. I
sending,
just,
or-
if we had any, would there be any resolution that this committee would need
No,
to do
it's
with it?
just
Internal?
the form, just showing the form. If you wanted formal approval, I can certainly bring it back as a resolution. It's been in
Maybe,
existence.
I'd like to see that the purchasing limits are set, that they're equalized versus what purchase orders would be.
Okay, I can bring back a report on who has it, what the limits are.
I would be curious to how many credit cards are out there each year.
Mhm.
It's been down the road, I know what problem you have.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
To answer, Lisa, your question, it would have been on the treasurer report. And the reason it's 0 is those are just assets or cash that we are held for other jurisdictions. So like I used the advanced tax collection while we have to do the January settlement. So we are collecting taxes throughout December, and then we have our January settlement, and they get dispersed accordingly to a certain percentage of collection to each jurisdiction.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And speaking of that, will we be bringing the updated fire and EMS agreements here too?
They are in the works, but I guess once we're at a certain point,
We have agreements, with the surrounding townships, and they're in the process of updating them. I don't know if that comes through here or what we do with that. It's just a question.
yep, I mean, we can bring them through. I
Is
don't
that
know.
something you guys want to see?
We have done that for EMS, for sure, in the past.
Yeah, I don't remember if it went through public safety and finance, or I just don't even remember what the process was. It's been a few years since we did them. As long as you're here, we'll put you on the spot.
Right, I show up early and I get questions. So right today, we have a contract for EMS, contract for fire. Been working with finance on looking at the methodology, because the contract for fire expires at the end of '26 completely with no current renewal clause in it. So we got to do something. EMS is a self-renewing contract, so we've been working on costs and trying to look at the future of the needs for fire and EMS and how those get allocated, and that Nicole, Marie, and Lisa have been doing an amazing job explaining to me some of the intricacies of what they do, and how things relate to each other in there that I didn't quite fully understand, but we got a good idea, and I think we got a good plan moving ahead that's pretty consistent with how surrounding communities dole out those costs to be in a fair manner. So whether everybody necessarily around us necessarily believes that that's the case, that's a starting point there, is we've got a pretty good, pretty fair doling of that. So I don't know what committees were when all these were signed, because I think
don't know either. That's
EMS was
interesting.
2015, and the contract for fire was 2007. It was when, or before that, because it was the construction of the new station was what brought that contract around. So there's a little bit of history there.
I think if there's fiscal impact, we'd want it to come through here.
So the question is at what point? So before we even talk to the townships, bring it forth here, explain the calculations, make sure, I guess, finance is comfortable with that before we approach the other townships. So we can show you, walk through the calculations, because currently fire and EMS are both based on a per capita type calculation, some with just like a CPI increase. So we're kind of doing a reset and a recalculation of it. So fire, we're doing on an equalized basis. So rather than population, I mean, when you fire, your property value makes more sense. So spreading it out, taking the cost, spreading it out by an equalized basis, and then EMS population, same thing, having the costs and then allocating it by the population in the area that we serve. Same with the value. So the value isn't the full value of the towns, it's just the area that we serve.
Lisa?
Yeah, I think it'd be relevant, especially if we're talking about potentially having a cooperative agreement. I think it, kind of get us in on the ground level so we understand what's already in place and, give us sort of a baseline and education about, what it might look like if it now versus if we had a cooperative agreement at some point. So.
All right, we'll add that to the list. We're creating more work for you. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're doing the work anyway, and there's no reason why we can't share it if you guys are interested, so you guys might be able to help us.
Anything else?
I don't know if it's a future meeting, but maybe just one of the other things that caught my eye is just the deficit in the TID districts, and whether or not there's a point that, maybe just some better understanding, at least for me, about is there light at the end of the tunnel, like what are the things that look like, because it's, I think it's 1.77 million deficit now, and maybe just a kind of I'd be interested in your perception of what, how bad is it? If we get this development going, just a better understanding of where we're at, because it seems like it's kind of been hung up for a long time in a deficit, so when do we need to be concerned, and maybe for a future agenda item?
Yep, we can definitely, Ellers presented last year, spring. Todd did a presentation on the status of the TIDs. We can certainly do another one.
That'd be before or
And-
after the audit, you think?
We could do it at any time.
Okay.
I mean, it might not be exact to the audit at that point if it's done before. But like for an example, TID 4 is closing. We want to do this year's increment to affordable housing, and it does have a balance, let's say over 600,000. That it can donate to TID 5, that is like 660,000 deficit. So we can definitely do an update. I can work with Greg to do an update on cash flows and update on the projection for all the TIDs.
That'd be great, thank you. And I imagine once we have more information on whether or not the RDA site is moving forward, and, hopefully that'll play a role in it, but I'm sure we don't have an exact finish line on that at this point either, so that'll be good to hear about that at some point as well.
All right, anything else? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Motion by Brett, seconded by Ozzy. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? All right, we are adjourned.